Avalanches are one of the most potent natural forces humans have ever encountered. They can sweep trains off their tracks, uproot trees, and bring entire buildings down in a matter of seconds. They can also bury unsuspecting backcountry visitors under many feet of snow, but there are a few skills you can learn to ensure that this isn't your last. In today's video, What'da Happened will help you know about avalanches and give you some helpful tips. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and switch on notifications so you don't miss any of our latest videos. Let's get started with the video without further ado. A lot of people picture an avalanche as a mass of loose snow and ice sliding down the mountain like BBs down a slide. It's more like a plate sliding off a table when an avalanche starts. A chunk of snow breaks loose from the mountain and slides down the slope at first. The slab shatters as it speeds up, fracturing into smaller and smaller bits until it's so tiny that it flows like water. Avalanche materials is as fine as powdered sugar at the bottom. Avalanches typically travel at 70 miles per hour, but larger ones can travel at 200 miles per hour, washing up and down hills and valleys and striking with enough force to wipe away trees, buildings, and entire cities. A tumbling motion occurs when faster moving snow at the surface of an avalanche carries more force than slower moving snow underneath it. The snow churns like the surf after a wave breaks over the next 5 seconds as the slide speeds. The men would have lost track of which direction was up at this point. Surfers refer to this as getting washed, machined, when it happens in the water. Once the flow stops, the snow would have compacted so tightly around the climber that he wouldn't be able to move even his fingers. It wouldn't be helpful to spit to see which way was up. The snow feels like concrete, and digging without a shovel is impossible. All a climber can do in such a situation is wait, pray, and cough out the snow in his lungs while relaxing and using less oxygen. Isn't that terrifying and dangerous? Although there is enough air to keep a human alive in densely packed snow, warm breath causes the snow surrounding the face to melt. That melting snow will inevitably freeze. This forms an ice capsule around the climber's head, blocking the passage of fresh air. As a result, he's obligated to breathe and exhale the same air with the lower oxygen concentrations. The climber slowly asphyxiates after being buried alive. The heart first beats quicker after asphyxiation. Breathing becomes more rapid. People who have been resurrected from this stage frequently report seeing a ray or a tunnel of light. It's seen by many as a religious experience. Scientists have a theory as well, but it hasn't been proven in the lab. Peripheral vision deteriorates as a result of oxygen deprivation, limiting the field of view and creating the illusion of a constantly closing tunnel of light. It was regarded as heavenly by survivors. The brain enters a manic version of REM sleep after about 4 minutes of asphyxiation. Some scientists believe that this brainwave pattern helps to prevent neural damage. Victims who are resurrected often recall their entire life flashing before their eyes. They say they feel at ease as if they've entered a Zen-like meditation that has been known to convert atheists to believers. After that, the heart slows as it runs out of oxygen. The pulse lowers to around 30 beats per minute. The heart then beats wildly and eventually stops, trembling in a place like jelly. Breathing slows and eventually stops. The body begins to chill. The central nervous system eventually shuts down as electrical activity in the brain decreases. The climbers buried by the avalanche would die in 35 minutes if they didn't create an air pocket in front of their mouths. Death might have taken 95 minutes if there had been an air pocket. They might have lasted for hours in a state of suspension between life and death if their bodies had cooled quickly enough. Hearts halted, brains partially on, they could have been summoned back. Doctors at a cutting-edge hospital could have been able to save their lives. The soldiers, however, who were buried at the K2 avalanche on August 2, 2008 were never discovered. Their remains remained buried in the snow where they cooled. Well, that's what happens if you're caught in an avalanche. Let's look at how to survive an avalanche now. Jump up the slope. The majority of avalanche victims initiate the avalanche, and the avalanche may begin immediately beneath their feet. If this occurs, try jumping up the slope past the fracture line. It's practically hard to respond quickly enough to avoid an avalanche, yet it's been done. Move to the side of the avalanche. You may be able to make your way to the side of the avalanche, where it originates above or below you. Don't pause, get to the side of the avalanche slope as soon as possible. You may be able to get out of the avalanche's path before it reaches you if it starts far above you. The snow will move the fastest near the center of the flow, and the biggest volume of snow will be found there. Let go of your heavy equipment. Let go of your gear to make your body as light as possible, but keep your bag because it may protect your neck and back. This increases the likelihood that you'll be able to stay close to the snow surface. Survival equipment such as a transceiver and a probe or a snow shovel should not be overlooked. You'll need them if you become buried. People looking for you later might be able to find you if they spot some bits of equipment on the snow surface, so you can let go of a glove or something else light to help them find you. Hold on to something. If you can't get away from the avalanche, grab a boulder or a solid tree. You might be able to hold on until the avalanche passes you by if it's a minor avalanche or if you're near the avalanche's edge. Even if you're ripped away from the object you're clutching. If you can postpone your departure downhill, you'll have a better chance of avoiding being buried, or at least not as deeply buried. Keep in mind that even massive rocks and trees might be carried away by a powerful avalanche. Start swimming. This is critical for staying close to the snow surface. Because the human body has a far higher density than snow, you'll sink as you're carried downhill. By kicking your feet and thrashing your arms in a swimming motion, you can try to stay afloat. On your back, swim. If you get buried, your face will be turned toward the surface, giving you a higher chance of getting oxygen faster. Swimming uphill is more difficult. Swimming up will bring you closer to the snow surface. Hold one arm straight above your head. It needs to be aimed at the snow surface because it's possible to become lost after you're buried. This will aid you in determining which direction is up. It could also assist rescuers in locating you. Because the fluid will trickle down, spitting out a small bit of saliva can also aid in determining which way is up. Dig a pocket around your face. Once the avalanche has stopped, the snow settles like concrete. It'll be impossible to get out on your own if you're buried deeper than a foot or so when it sets. Your only hope is to avoid asphyxiation long enough for rescuers to arrive. Dig an air pocket between your nose and mouth with your free hand, or an avalanche shovel when the avalanche comes to a halt. You should have enough air to last at least 30 minutes with just a little air pocket to breathe from. Before the snow falls, take a big breath. Inhale deeply and hold your breath for a few seconds just before the snow settles. When the snow hardens around you, this causes your chest to expand, giving you some breathing room. You may not be able to expand your chest to breathe while buried if you don't have this breathing room. Conserve air and energy. Once the snow has settled, try to move, but don't compromise your air pocket. You might be able to dig your way out if you're really close to the surface, but otherwise you're stuck. Don't waste any more of your breath fighting the snow. Maintain your composure and wait to be rescued. If you hear others nearby, try calling them, but if they don't seem to hear you, don't bother. You can probably hear them better than they can hear you, and shouting wastes your limited supply of oxygen. Wait for rescue to come. If you hit the slopes with an avalanche beacon and probe, and your other skiers did the same, someone will be able to locate you and rescue you. Wait patiently and remain cool. So that concludes today's video. Keep an eye on what happened for more and subscribe to informative travel videos before you leave.